And everyone, we are alive. Welcome once again to the spoiler room. It is another month. We have another month started here, and we've rolled away from the skate or die month gleefully. A lot of people, I think, were skipping on their skates as we were rolling away from skate or die.
Five movies, one good one.
and this month, if you didn't catch it, it's Carradine Carnage, and what that means is we're looking at four films that star Mr. David Carradine, and we're kind of going in a chronological order of the four films I picked. Tonight's movie, Boxcar Bertha, 1972. Then we're going to talk about Death Race 2000, which was 1975. And then we will have Q, the Winged Serpent, which was 86, I think, and Warlords, which is
82, wasn't it?
Or 82, excuse me.
Yeah, I think it was
82. And then Warlords was 86, I think. Something like that. So anyway, we're going to kind of go in a little bit of a chronological order. But tonight, it is a crime, drama, romance with a bit of comedy in it as well, with some really big kind of back camera names involved and some names in front as well. We're looking at Boxcar Bertha 1972, and tonight I got a wonderful crew with me to talk movie spoilers. So thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair, and popping or pouring your favorite drink with us as we talk movie spoilers. First off, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joe Randazzo is with us. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Glad to have you. And with us, my right-hand man, he survived Skate or Die Month, and he's still here with us, thankfully. It is none other than Mr. Ian Simmons. How you doing, Ian?
Well, and the key to surviving Skate or Die Month, Mark, is by dangling Martin Scorsese's first picture in front of me, because I had never seen Boxcar Bertha until yesterday. So this is a hell of a blind spot to take off. But man, I was climbing through barbed wire with a knife in my teeth to get to this night.
Yeah, see, I gotta throw some good ones in there every so often. So, Boxcar Bertha, Joe, you want to give the synopsis of Boxcar Bertha?
Yeah. After her pilot father is killed in a plane crash, Bertha, played by Barbara Hershey, it's kind of sketchy what she's doing. You don't really know right away, but it's implied that and it's outright stated by some people that she's a prostitute. She is involved with Big Bill Kelly. Is that his name?
Shelley.
Big Bill Shelley, who's played by David Carradine, who is a what would you call him? He's very much a
union organizer.
Yeah, he's very much a union organizer. Maybe he's very pro-union, and we see him early on, whipping people into a frenzy, and basically at these rallies, you see the cops sitting there, like just kind of stroking their batons, just waiting for like an excuse to beat on them. There's two things about this that I kind of wonder, because there's a hit. I'm wondering if this was Roger Corman's way of making a Bonnie and Clyde film, because it did get a lot of Bonnie and Clyde vibes.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah. Picking Scorsese to do this, there's a lot of Scorsese elements, which we'll get to later on. But yeah, they kind of form a gang along with the characters' names. Rake, who is played by Barry Primus. He is a card swindler who early on, Bertha, after hooking up with him, saves him from getting murdered after he cheats at a card game, and he's caught. He joins up with the gang, and also you have holy hell, I'm blanking on names tonight.
Vaughn, right?
Yeah, played by
Bernie Casey.
Bernie Casey, who was involved with her father, and yeah, basically they rip off these rich assholes, but mostly they rip off John Carradine's character, who is the head of the local railroad, and they seem to get some glee out of particularly screwing with him. And he's got this Oliver Hardy and other guy, yeah, we'll just go from there. I suck at these synopsises lately. But yeah, what I do know is apparently they had seen Who's That Knocking at My Door, which was Scorsese's NYU film, I believe.
Yeah.
And Corman was making a sequel to not Boxcar Bertha, Bloody Mama, which is a really successful female gangster movie starring Shelley Winters and featured a young man named Robert De Niro, who nobody's ever heard of again, and certainly never ended up doing anything with Scorsese.
Never, no.
So I'm wondering if that's actually how they linked up, is through Corman. Hey, he's in New York. You're in New York. But yeah, they wanted to make it ended up not being a sequel to Bloody Mama. This movie's got nothing to do with Bloody Mama. It was basically AIP wanted another female gangster movie because Bloody Mama was such a huge hit. So yeah, they got Scorsese signed on to direct, and as legend has it, they sent him to Arkansas a month before the Cormans went, and Julie Corman walks into his the room he was staying in one night and just sees like all these sketches around the whole wall, and he had sketched out every single frame of this movie. And she's like, "Wait, is this?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah. Well, I've been down here and I've been looking at the sites and I've been looking at where to film." And so then he showed it to Roger Corman, and Roger's like flipping through them, and he apparently Roger gets like 20 down. He's like, "Did you do the whole movie like this?" He goes, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, we got our guy." And that attention to detail, I mean, it's amazing. You don't hear a lot of stories about people like that anymore, but Scorsese has always been just like the ultimate film nerd.
Yeah, and you can see it in this film. I've not seen this before. It was a blind spot for me. Barely even knew about it. I know cinephiles can all yell at me. Here's my card. Fine, whatever. Found the movie.
On that, there's 150 years of cinema history. You cannot expect anybody to have seen everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
But I saw the movie listed. It's on my shelf in the back here at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
They had copies of it at the Dollar Tree because go figure, when a lot of the brick and mortar stores stopped selling DVDs, you stopped seeing DVDs at the Dollar Tree. Go figure. Well, the $1.25 tree. But when they were doing it a few years ago, I'm flipping through them, and they've got some MGM classics in there as well. There are a lot of MGM library.
I was going to say it's very MGM heavy. A lot of Woody Allen in there too. In the local Dollar Tree. So
I'm flipping through it. All of a sudden, I'm like, Boxcar Bertha. I'm like, okay. And then I looked at it, I'm like, Barbara Hershey. I'm like, David Carradine, what? And I look at the back and go, Martin Scorsese for $1? Fuck yeah, I'm picking it. And so it's sat on my shelf. And so then when I decided to do Carradine Carnage, I'm like, well, I've got to put this in there so I can, finally get around to watching it. And yeah, it's crazy the people that are involved in this. I mean, you named the names, and I'm just watching this going, hey, that's.
Apparently, Barbara Hershey was the only known actor at the time,
right?
So, or John Carradine was too, but Carradine wasn't. Carradine's always. What's that?
Was this after Kung Fu or before?
Was it before?
It was just after, I think.
Okay, so then I'm wrong on that. David Carradine was a name.
Carradine was kind of because Kung Fu was. Well, I the only reason I know of Kung Fu because it was on syndication. So that's why we know of Kung Fu. But I think because I was looking that up too. Kung Fu was around this time. He was doing Kung Fu. Okay. So because Kung Fu started in 1972, and he was in Boxcar Bertha, which was also 1972. But he had been doing a lot of like TV and westerns and stuff, and he'd been working for it looks like almost 10 years in various small parts, westerns, actually, surprisingly, and then he gets this. So, but yeah, then you got Barbara Hershey in here, and it's like Scorsese, and I'm just looking at this going, holy crap. And Ian, was this the first time watch for you? And how do you feel about this movie? Your top level feeling before we dive into it.
It was my first watch. I can definitely see how this kind of put Scorsese on the map, mostly because of the last 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I did get very much, this is Roger Corman trying to cash in on Bonnie and Clyde, which was, I think, 3 years before this. 69?
Yeah.
Arthur Penn?
69, yeah.
I found all the characters to be distasteful, from the head of the railroad to our 4 protagonists. Yeah, I didn't feel good watching this movie because I couldn't root for anybody.
Sure.
Even the whole we're gonna go stick up the rich people. I'm like, well, that's one thing, but they're still people. And you could be at a party and all of a sudden people break in with guns and start sticking the place up. And a lot of those scenes in this movie are played for laughs or like some kind of a gag. And I'm like, this isn't really funny. And I understand the whole class struggle thing, but everybody is higher up on the totem pole than someone else. So even if you are at a party with your friends, you're lower or middle class people, and someone lower than you comes in waving guns around saying, hey, I'm entitled to what you have, that I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of that. And the final scene, the final act involving Bill Sherman is shocking and weird. And I think Scorsese has been working on a version of that theme the entire rest of his career. Seriously. So yeah, it's a fascinating movie. I really hated the editing, particularly in the opening of the scene with the airplane. I thought it was really sloppy, and it was one of those things we were kind of talking about this in the pre-show or post-show, as it were. The whole idea of this is what we're going for, kind of a thing, but in execution, it's yeah, I'm having to infer a lot about the action, but then again, I'm mostly approaching that from modern editing sensibilities where you can do crazy things like in the movie F1 that back in 72 were probably pretty cutting edge. So I got to give it a little grace. So yeah, it's a mixed bag for me.
What about you, Joe?
I mean, I enjoy the movie too, but I like that raunchy, early 70s. This is obviously the Corman edit of a Scorsese movie, because we all know if Marty had his druthers, this is 2 hours and 35 minutes, and there's just all this other stuff going on. But Corman's rule is the best length for a movie is 85 to 90 minutes. That's
right.
The go-to rule, and this movie falls right in there. So this is very much. This is Marty showing us what he could do, and man, do we see a lot of this stuff repeated later on, because you have Ian mentioned that last sequence is something that thematically he's done a lot throughout his career, and I kind of feel, and man, this might be the only time I ever mention these two in the same fucking sentence ever again, hopefully. But in watching, the last 2 weeks, the two Rollerblade movies, and when you watch Scorsese's movies, and you watch Michael Mann movies, Michael Mann from the late 70s until Heat was trying to perfect the heist movie. And it always feels like you get these directors who are obsessed with a topic, and they just want to tell that story perfectly. And Scorsese's been doing the organized crime story since his first film that he was hired for, because it's a second feature technically, but this is the first one that he was.
This is the first big meaty one that he did.
This is the first one where he's actually working a job, and you could see a lot of the themes that would become big with him later on. The union organizers and unions and the link between unions and organized crime, the idea of the smaller man who has to fight this big group of criminals, which is another theme that he's had. So is it a really great movie? You line it up against Goodfellas or Casino or The Departed, Raging Bull. No, it's not on that level, but you see it, and you do it like Ian said, you see what he's going for. And I guess this is the hindsight of seeing the last 50 years of his filmmaking. This is a good early indicator of what we're going to get. And it's not a bad movie, I don't think, in any way. Seeing this in 1972, you might have just thought, okay, it's you know, it's another good Corman movie, because Corman's made at this point, St. Valentine's Day Massacre or Bloody Mama. He's made movies like this. Excuse me. And so you'd probably say, okay, this is just another one of those. But man, the last 50 years, it adds to just what we know about Martin Scorsese, and you just kind of it made me feel giddy to watch it and know, like, oh my God, this is going to be at one point one of the greatest filmmakers in history, and this is the humble beginnings of that.
Yeah,
so, I think that colors my judgment a little bit.
No, but you can see the seeds. You can see the seeds of so much. You definitely see some seeds of Gangs of New York in this. Quite, because, and Ian, I don't think how you felt about the characters is exactly wrong, because that has been, at least for me, a lot of Scorsese films, in that he's presenting these characters to where, if you look at some of them, and not all the movies, but in some of the movies, you look at them and you go, I really shouldn't root for anyone in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, but there's a difference, and I think Scorsese grew as a filmmaker and a storyteller. Now, some of that comes from adapting other people's work,
right? Because this is adapted from a book of someone's memoirs, right. I think so.
But I mean, if you look at this movie, and I'm going to go on record, and this is purely because of the story and the character. I hate Raging Bull. I can't get past the art. I can't appreciate the artistry of that movie, because I think Jake LaMotta is a monster, and at no point do I ever think that Martin Scorsese is not on his side. It's a very romantic portrayal of a guy who, if you even heard that he was in your neighborhood, you would call the cops just to watch his house, because you know that he's going to do something horrific. But when you get to like Henry Hill and Goodfellas, yeah, he's a career criminal. But the movie, and this, going back to Joe's comment on the runtime, has the 3 hours of breathing room to establish his kind of origin story, and how he was corrupted and then seduced and fell into drugs, and eventually kind of got right, at least in terms of cocaine. But in this film, like Bill Sherman, the union boss, his relationship with Boxcar Bertha it's horrifying. Because basically he coerces his way into having sex with her in a train car. And then when she wakes up, he's gone, and he's shoved like $5 into her shoe. Yeah. And yet she's madly in love with him the rest of the picture. I'm like, no, this is really messed up. And I don't like her, because she's, I don't know, she goes from being like daddy's little girl to instantly being this prostitute character who, even before she gets to work at the brothel, on top of that, this screams first movie, because there's a Scorsese cameo, and it struck me as sleazy. I'm like, okay, you're gonna have a cameo as the sweet, sensitive guy who wants to spend $15 just so he can not be alone for the night. But yet Barbara Hershey is in bed topless during that scene. Like, oh yeah, I'll bite the bullet. I'm going to be in the bed with my starlet. And she's photographed naked, like, throughout this movie unnecessarily. Like, the whole thing feels really sleazy and exploitative. And if it weren't for his future career, I could look at this and say, yeah, this is just kind of, it's an exploitation knockoff of an actual movie called Bonnie and Clyde, which also had characters that were reprehensible, but they at least had a charm and a sort of intelligence, even if it's just like a street intelligence. Like Bill, I think, is just lucky to be alive throughout this entire film. He doesn't strike me as particularly bright. He's just angry. And then Rake is an interesting character, but he's completely cucked from the moment he gets onto that train car, and Bertha goes right into the arms of Bill. I'm like, okay, so why are you hanging around? Like, what's the deal here? None of this made sense.
And again, I haven't read the memoirs or the book it was based off of, but considering it's based off of an actual book written by Boxcar Bertha, basically.
Well, no, it was told to the author.
To the author, yes. Sorry, yeah. So there's some creative license in there as well, probably, because we know how the the game telephone works. So,
And it does feel like we kind of jump from the plane crash to
their relationship
their
really
relationship.
quick.
We don't see it really build. They're already kind of involved. And I just lost my train of thought in the middle of that.
Is that a pun, Joe?
It wasn't going to be
Train. Train. No, it is really, no, you're right. It's really fast. And if anything, that is the one thing that threw me is time passage in this is really awkward. You really have to like, wait, what? Cause when we see the plane crash and we see, Big Bill Shelley and Von Morton, they beat up the rich guy and his butler because it's their fault that Bertha's dad went back up with the faulty plane. And so they take it out on him. And then we cut to Big Bill Shelley trying to lead a union rally by breaking the railroad.
That's right.
And Bertha shows up and suddenly they're just all lovey-dovey, like, and you're just like, okay, where was the mourning for your father? I mean, you had the scream in that one scene, and then all of a sudden,
where I was going. That jogged my memory, because you see her, and I get the feeling that a lot of what made her go to Bill was seeing him speak with so much fire,
right?
And I got that feeling from the look in her. She had the fuck me eyes. When she's watching him, at the rally, and I feel like that maybe was meant to kind of take the place of us actually watching any relationship unfold. And I've seen, when you're around somebody who's really charismatic, you could see sometimes people getting that kind of reaction around them. You could see people like just being so impressed by somebody, by a speech or by something that they fall head over heels. And I think that might have been because I think had this been made in 1992, Scorsese would have shown us everything that happened from the plane crash to he's whining and dining her, he's taking her here, he's introducing her to powerful people, because he's involved with powerful people, and that's another theme with Scorsese, I think, is the idea that power corrupts you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think my issue is not so much with Bill, although he could have used some fleshing out, but it's with Bertha, because I have no idea how old she's supposed to be. In that initial scene, I've never seen Barbara Hershey this young. She looks like she's all of 15 years old.
She looks very young. This is probably the earliest I've seen her too. Right.
And so when Bill is then, getting it on with her in that train car, and she's kind of into it, but kind of not. And his big line that puts her over the top is, "You'll get used to it." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That scene there did not land well at all. I'm like,
but I also don't think we're supposed to be rooting for Bill anyway.
No.
Right, but it's not so much that, it's the whole idea of, I don't understand where this infatuation comes from on her part throughout the rest of the picture, because at some point it becomes the great American outlaw romance. And it's like, I was much more interested in, after Bill, and I know it's wishful thinking to think that he would drop out of the picture because it's David Carradine, but when she meets up with Rake and they're kind of like playing off of each other, I thought maybe she had taken some world-weary lessons from Bill that she was going to bring into a relationship with Rake, and that was going to work itself out somehow, and it absolutely didn't. So yeah, that's my expectation. But I couldn't root for anybody in this film because they're all pretty awful, and not in that kind of colorful, like Joe Pesci in both Goodfellas and Casino, monstrous. But partially it's the performance, but mostly it's the writing of these characters. They are so dynamic, and you can't help but want to see what they're going to do next because they're so unpredictable and very smart in their own way. I just felt like I was watching a bunch of, idiots that I wouldn't give a thought to if someone said, "Oh, that guy died in the paper because he, walked in front of a bus."
Yeah, because that's also an issue with this. They keep going after the same people.
Yeah.
And at some point, you got to expect if you keep knocking, they're going to knock back. And it seems like they never figured that. I don't know. If I walk in every day and I slap you upside the head every single day, at some point you're going to turn around and you're going to punch me back. And they seem shocked when John Carradine and his goons hit back.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say, kind of jumping ahead to the ending real quick.
Yeah.
I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to find a huge fan of this movie in one Ryan Coogler, because if you watch the last 5 minutes of this movie, it is pretty much the last 5 minutes the penultimate 5 minutes. You don't count that 20-minute post-credit sequence, which is amazing, of Sinners. You've got it down to the period in which it takes place, because you've got Bernie Casey coming out of nowhere just as they've crucified Bill. He's like got his gun out and he's like mowing down these cracker railroad assholes left and right. It's the ending of Sinners, except without a machine gun. It's a shotgun.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together. I should have. Wow, that's
and well, not only that, but you get your Scorsese-isms in here, because this ending as well. Now, don't get me wrong. I think for me, out of all the characters, and it sounds weird, I like Von Morton the best. I like Bernie Casey's character the best out of our group. And he shows up with the shotgun that is like mega powered shotgun. So you get the one shot where he shoots the guy, and we get the camera following the guy as he gets blown like 15 feet into the back of a shed.
And Coogler does a lot of the same things in that climactic scene. He's very much in love with showing these guys die spectacularly. I'm all there for
and
it.
I'm not complaining about it. It's a great moment. I would argue that out of all the characters in this, Von Morton is probably, as far as tier of characters, maybe Rake, but Von Morton too. And they're not our main characters, but yeah, Bertha always seems to settle. She gets into a situation. She looks like she might do the right situation, the choice, but then she just settles. She doesn't actually go forward with what she was thinking. She ends up falling back. Like she ends up with Rake because, for whatever reason, because she seemed to be doing okay on her own until she meets with Rake. So she's not exactly with him, but Rake seems like someone who she can kind of lead, and he'll follow, and then you get that scene later on when she's by herself. She gets separated from Big Bill Shelley, and she runs because they get trapped. Their train, they fall for a trap. And later on, she's walking in a town, and some lady goes, "Oh, you're by yourself? Do you have a place to stay?" And suddenly she's working in a brothel. And it was almost like, I understand they gave the impression she kind of didn't have a choice, but she also did. And that, and we see that at moments throughout where it feels like she just settles. Like, instead of actually taking the chance that she'd probably be successful at, because there's hints of her being able to just survive on her own. Any way she can. She gets into these weird situations where it seems like she just I think I'll just go with this now.
Well, it's also, at the end of the film, when she's running after the train as it takes off with Bill crucified to the side of it, and she's crying, and she's running barefoot too, which is like, oh my God.
Along the side of a train tracks. That's yeah.
Right. There's stones, there's wood, there's probably rail spikes everywhere. But it just left me with a big question, because let's assume that she's in her late teens, maybe very early 20s at the end of this whole adventure. Like, what's the rest of her life look like? Did she grow up to do something else? Did she continue to this life of crime? I know this is kind of a snapshot, but I don't know. It feels like it was definitely the snapshot of the Boxcar Bertha era of her life, but I almost want to see a what happens next kind of thing, because she is left pretty much on her own. What happened to Vaughn? Just kind of wandered off, didn't he? I can't remember what happened.
Well,
to
she
him.
left Vaughn. She
She
runs after
she
the train.
runs after
Vaughn's
the train.
standing there.
Right, but she could go back and then, reconnect with him or something like that. There's just, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to get from the end of this film.
Yeah, at this point, he's all she has.
Yeah, and they're kindred spirits too, because you get that scene when she actually gets a day off from being at the brothel, working at the brothel. And she ends up hearing the harmonica, and she ends up reconnecting with Vaughn in in the bar where and she's the only white person in the bar, and everybody's looking like, what the hell? And
what is going on here?
And he's like, hey, how you doing? And even while he's welcoming her, everybody's like, get her out of here. Actually, you both get out of here, please. You're just going to cause trouble, among other things.
Also happens in Sinners.
Yeah. Maybe Sinners is Ryan Coogler's vampire remake of Boxcar Bertha.
Yeah, because you do have that scene again. You have where she shows up at the oh my god, it didn't even hit me.
There's some beats in there for sure.
Related note or unrelated note, but sort of. Ryan Coogler is also a big fan of Xanadu, which I watched earlier this week. And there's the montage mashup of like 1930s swing and 1970s, 80s era rock and roll that's kind of mashed together as the two time periods collide in a club setting.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, and it's also an homage to the early black musical westerns from like the 30s. With an all black cast, which are some of those are really, really good too.
Yeah, and so in here, I mean, we get these scenes. You get this feeling that Von Morton and Bertha, out of all the relationships in here, probably have the best friendship between the two, all together, like genuine, like really genuine.
She's probably known him her whole life though, because he's working for her father.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's probably been there since she was a little child.
Right. And and so I like that. And Bernie Casey plays him fantastically. I'm just like, I'm interested in the Von Morton character more so than anybody else here. The way he rolls with things too. And you get that wonderful scene early on when they get arrested initially. I think they get arrested initially for the union thing. And they get in there, and the thugs hired by the railroad come in there with the shotguns, and the sheriff lets them, and they like start blowing the guys away because there's basically a riot started. and you got him choking the cop, and he's like, and he chokes the cop out. I don't think he kills him, but he definitely knocks him out. I don't know if he actually kills him.
Well, that's one of the other things. I almost forgot about that scene. Talk about a scene of convenience. Because they kill everybody in the cell except for our main character.
Stars. Yeah, I caught that.
especially the big black dude who, as you mentioned, Mark, had been choking out a deputy like in the cells of the bar, and they leave him alone. Like, no, at the very least, he's getting grabbed behind a car.
Yeah, that part I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, I was waiting. There were a number of points where I thought Von Morton was just going to be a dead man because he's in the South, the deep South of and segregation and all of that playing out here. I know in the 30s. I know it's the 30s, but still, it's very prominent with these guys. Obviously, they very much voice their discrimination against anyone who isn't white. And yeah, I was surprised that he survived that whole ordeal in the jail cell.
Or even just discrimination against Rake for having a northern accent.
Right.
Yeah, they do not. When you meet Rake, he is very silent. And eventually Bertha gets him to speak, and everyone around him goes, I knew he was a damn Yankee. And they want nothing to do with him anymore. It's like, I assume that's what
that scene was
a
great.
Legitimately great scene. Yeah, from the moment she wanders in and discovers Craps, and she rolls, I think, 5 nines in a row or something like that.
4 nines. Yeah, she
4
rolls
nines.
4 nines. Yeah.
And then she decides, they're like, don't you want to roll again? She's like, no, I'm just going to take my money and go. And she ends up sitting next to the guy who basically lost all of his money to her. And I love that kind of pantomime of like trying not to speak. And then it comes out that he's, I think they accuse him of being Jewish. They make some kind of a rabbi crack. And then later on in the hotel, she's trying to teach him how to talk with a Southern accent, say, my dia. Is to say my dear. It's cute. I'm like, why didn't this should have been the relationship, like the positive version of Bonnie and Clyde?
Honestly, I have a feeling that if this was produced by somebody other than Roger Corman, there would have been more exploration of that kind of thing. I think this was Corman going, no, listen. 85 minutes. We got to get them. We got to get this. We got to get this. We got to get this.
Well, yeah, because if this was later on Scorsese, it would be a 3-hour thing, and she wouldn't meet up Big Shelley again until like hour 2. It'd be like hour 1 would be her and Big Shelley and that whole ordeal, and then her and Big Shelley separate, and she ends up meeting Rake. The next hour would be their kind of relationship and their shenanigans going on, and then all of a sudden we cross paths with Big Shelley, Bill Shelley again. And then it would be the drama of the triangle, and that if Scorsese was doing this later on, that's how this would end up played out.
That's what this seems like to me. This seems like Scorsese in Fast Forward.
Yeah,
that's what it really seems like to me. Like this didn't have the room for everything to breathe the way Scorsese normally does.
No, it didn't, because Ian's right. That's one of my favorite scenes. Actually, my favorite scene is from when she's walking into the this kind of squatter area where she picks up a cup and they let her, and she actually gets a cup of water, and people just let her because it's the Great Depression, and people are like, you know what, you look like you're just the same situation we have here. Yeah, go ahead. And then she plays craps, and then she's with Rake. Actually, everything from there to just before she hops on the train car and ends up running across a Big Shelley again, I like that whole section with Rake and her showing him and them trying to pull a grift on some lawyer and her actually killing the lawyer. That whole little section I actually like, and that feels very Scorsese, that part.
Yeah, I mean, it really is solid. And was it in there, or was it later when they'd hooked up with the rest of the gang? I can't remember.
It was after after they killed the lawyer, and they let it later on. They I'm getting to a specific part. The bit where he's reading the newspaper. About the crimes, and he gets to his name, and he's like, "Oh, my name's in print," and there's like, "Oh, and he's a coward," and
that's a little bit after that.
That's after they meet up again with Big Bill, and they end up knocking off the train because initially they were just going to steal the train, and then the guy goes, are you here to rob us? And they're like, what do you got to rob? And that's when they start their crime, which, by the way, $27,000 was the equivalent of what was stolen for each of them, because they got $3,000 and this was 1930s. In 2025, that would have been 27 grand for each of them.
Okay.
And so they got away with a good chunk of change. And see, as we do here with the spoiler room, we do money conversion. But after that one heist, I think it stumbles quite a bit on their true motivation to continue doing that. Because there's some hesitation by Bertha, Shelley, Bill's like, I just want to go back. I mean, dear God, at one point he goes, I just want to go back to a regular job. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is I think he was a working man. He just got kind of caught up in the whole unionization thing because he saw the corruption of the big railroad. But at the heart of it, I mean, he wasn't a revolutionary. Right. And when he got this outlaw reputation, he basically, I think I wrote the line down somewhere, but he's like, I'm not a criminal, or I'm just a criminal. He was kind of resigned to it. And at the end, when Bertha discovers him, like after they're reunited, he's like sitting in a cabin. He's got like glasses now, and he's like trying to. I don't know if he's reading or what he's doing.
Oh, near the end of the film.
Towards the end of the film.
Yeah,
because he's been in and out of jail with Morton, and he got the shit beat out of him the one time, and you can tell he's not feeling well. I thought he was blind at first. The way they played it, I like thought he maybe went blind. The way they did that initially, maybe he dropped back into Kang and Kung Fu for a minute there. But
it's an interesting point you bring up, Mark, because if one of the characters out of these four had just decided, you know what, I'm taking my share and I'm going to leave, and we find out like a postscript later, like they went off and invested that money and became their own kind of, here's a story. They go and invest in the railroad. They invest in some other business, and they become the kind of magnate that Bertha and Bill and Vaughn, say it's Rake who takes off, they end up sticking them up later on in the picture. That's in your 3-hour Scorsese cut. The revolutionaries become the establishment, then it has to be taken down, and it's a vicious cycle for eternity.
I don't think Scorsese's vibe would go with that, though, because I feel like
as long as there's a montage of people dying somewhere near the third act, it's totally fine.
So I feel like Scorsese would always be on the side of the revolutionaries.
Well, what's funny as you mentioned it is the fact that Big Bill Shelley actually does that. He's like, I'm taking my share and I'm going to give it to the Brotherhood for the union to help support those who go on strike.
That's true. He does do that. Yeah,
and Bertha's like, what are you doing? No, don't. He's like, yeah, I'm going. I'm done with this. Okay, we got one good heist. I'm good. And he goes off, and all of a sudden Bertha is more like Rake in this, in that she wants more money. And yeah, then he goes and he delivers the money to the Brotherhood. They're like, dude, you're wanted, right? Like,
and the bills are marked. Yeah. But I mean, it's a little different than what I'm suggesting. Like, but what he does is his version of a selfless act. He wants to give all of the money to the union. What I'm saying is keep some for yourself so that you can live comfortably, or go back and, kick dirt if that's what you decide to do, but invest it and build some kind of a future.
Yeah, so you don't have to keep robbing trains.
Right. Right. I mean, he could take like $500 and never have to work in his life.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, they didn't necessarily have to. That one heist, I mean, they got away with bank back in the 30s. The amount of money they got, they could have easily just disappeared because it's the 30s, so it's not like there's social media or paper. If you're out in the rural towns, you could hide out forever in the rural areas because nobody's going out there to search for you there. Good luck even getting a newspaper out there. But they don't do that. And Bertha, it's kind of implied that Bertha's driving kind of forces money, because that's why she stays at the brothel, and then she ends up, because she's making money there. And in fact, one of the things that happens is when they get caught up, because they get too big head on their shoulders, our crime quartet, and they decide to really go after the head of the railroad, and it was a trap. That's where Rake gets killed, unfortunately. I was like, oh man. She runs and leaves Shelley and Morton, and why they aren't killed, I don't know. There's some holes here on why our main characters at any point with the behavior of everyone else, they should have just been killed.
Twice in the span of like an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. She goes back, and what does she look for? The money, and the place has already been ransacked, and you get the impression, and it's gone, and she only got $4 to her name, but she went back for the money. Then it was like, that seems to be haphazardly handled in here. Kind of her driving thing is money.
But also $4 in the 1930s.
It was still, I mean,
good for like 2 weeks off of that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the key there as to why she went back. Not necessarily for the money, in terms of the wealth, but she had just lost the people that she had been traveling with, the safety in numbers thing. So
Right.
she was probably thinking, I need cash because I'm now on my own and I got to go, try
Yeah.
and I don't have anybody
That's
else
true.
to lean on if
Yeah.
something goes south.
That's true. But yeah, it does feel like Scorsese in Fast Forward. Scorsese even gives us a De Palma shot. Come on, man.
Is that the one in the beginning?
Not yet.
Yeah, the one in the beginning with just a brief shot with Carradine in the foreground and her and it's like, I'm like, did you just do a De Palma shot?
I mean, more likely De Palma saw this because
He might have, yeah.
I can't think of a De Palma. Well, no, wait, Sisters was already out by that point, wasn't it?
I think so.
So yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
They also have always had a mutual respect thing going, so it wouldn't shock me. If anything, with a De Palma shot, we'd have to be talking about how he's ripped off Hitchcock.
Oh, this was the same year as Sisters.
That's what I was thinking. Sisters, I think, was 72 is what I was thinking. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. But yeah,
which came first? We don't know.
It's well, I mean, these films took a while in production, so who knows? Yeah. Which
I mean, they probably also knew of each other because I think they were both New York guys, right?
Yeah.
So they probably Hi Mom had already come out by this point. And that was I think De Palma's first feature. So yeah, maybe Scorsese's seen some of his stuff. They might have both been. Yeah, they probably both knew of each other. They might have known each other by that point.
Might have traveled in some of the same circles too.
Yeah,
I mean, De
Niro's an early De Palma. De Niro's an early Scorsese. So yeah,
and you got your Corman formula in here, right? Was it in the first act? You get someone killed, you get some nudity, you get it's like you check off your Corman boxes with this movie.
You mentioned earlier, Ian, that Barbara Hershey's naked in this a lot. That's Corman. That's Corman going, we got to sell this. We got to get her tits out. That's basically.
I'm not complaining. I'm just noticing.
Well, it's been about 15 minutes and she hasn't taken her clothes off yet. It's about time we got to hit that mark.
Oh, that's the first day. If according to Corman, you get an actress who isn't known for like doing a lot of nudity. You get her naked on the first day. So that way, if she says she decides she's not going to want to do it, you don't waste any film. You call the next actress. No, she said she'd do it topless, so she's coming in. Because what happens, and it happened to a friend of mine because an actress was reluctant about being naked in a love scene with her boyfriend in the film. She was supposed to be topless, and we'd already shot all this stuff. And I was like, dude, you gotta shoot that stuff first. I remember reading Corman's book. He's like, no, it'll be fine. Then when we get to that day towards the end of the shoot, she's like, well, I don't want to take my top off. Now what? Now she's got to have a bra on while she's taking a bath with her boyfriend. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. No, but yeah, I mean, for this, I enjoyed this film, but I felt like it was meant to be heavier than it was, because this plays off as we said, it blows through a number of storylines that I would have loved to seen given a few more legs with it. Even Big Shelley returning the money to the Brotherhood. He drops off the money. They're like, it's marked. And he's like, well, fine, I'll take it back. And like, no. But there's this whole little conflict. And I would have loved to see a little more of like Big Shelley's people who were following him now questioning him, because they're like, you do what the hell, dude? You wanted to form a union and right now you're doing crimes. What the fuck?
Well, on top of that, like the union guy, they kept the money.
Right. Yeah. He still kept
whole
the
thing
money.
about like, well, this is marked. We can't do anything with this. And he's like, whatever, you keep it. And the guy was like, okay, fine, I will. So like, what did they do there? Was that part of a whole like laundering scheme that they needed to do? I mean, there's a whole story in that, which I would have seen in the Scorsese version. I don't know.
What do you do in that situation? Do you if you have marked money like that, do you take it? Do you distribute it to and get it changed in different places? Is that how you'd handle that?
You'd probably launder it. Yeah, you'd probably. Yeah, you would.
I'm not an expert on money laundering, so I don't know.
They would probably have taken that and gone to a business or whatnot, and it would have probably been distributed about and used, to make the money. Yeah, it would have been laundered probably if they were afraid it was marked.
Or there could be like this side plot of like they just decide to return it to the to the railroad. Like, hey, Bill came in, he gave us this money, we're giving it back to you as a sign of good faith or something, and then the guy who did that ends up executed by his own people.
Which then would have really gone a long way to make the railroad guys very much the bad guys.
Right.
But that ending though. I know we talked about the last 5 minutes. You get them back together. She's on the ground and you don't see it immediately, but Bill is crucified.
Yeah.
To a train, and you just see her she's on the ground. You hear Bill screaming in pain. She is just by the point that we're seeing it, she's just exhausted probably from screaming because she's just she just looks tired. She looks like she doesn't have it in her anymore. That is some amazing imagery for this movie.
Well, yeah, it's weird because that section, it's probably my two favorite directed and handled scenes, the last 5 minutes of this movie and the scene where we talk about where she meets up with Rake are the two that are probably that I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this movie.
Which, from what I understand, the ending was shot first because I think that's what cost the most money. And Corman was like, let's make sure we get it. Let's make sure we get it right. So yeah, from what I
make sure we have the money for it.
yeah, that's probably the bulk of the budget right there was getting the train and everything. So.
Well, on top of that, I mean, it's impressive it took me out of the movie, but in a good way, because I'm thinking 1972, this train is going, and it looks like Carradine is actually, they didn't actually crucify him. He's up there somehow, but he is on the outside of that train as it's, slowly starting to move. And then it's like going full speed ahead. I'm like, wow, it didn't look like a dummy or anything. Like that was quite impressive.
I mean, the way it was shot, he was probably on some kind of platform. I must have been
but he's still on the outside of the train.
It's still your star.
It's definitely a hard.
It's still your star hanging on the outside of an actual train that's actually moving.
Yeah, this is where Tom Cruise probably watched this and he's like, I could do that in my Mission Impossible movies someday.
Someday I'll do it. But yeah, I mean, those are the two segments that I think, I kind of wish I got that vibe through the rest of it. Otherwise, the rest of this really is kind of just a Cliff's Notes of this crime couple. Like we're getting these little sequences.
Even Bonnie and Clyde was I think 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell this kind of story in that condensed a time period as 88 minutes. And that's including credits.
Well, you can if you choose one heist. You know, if this was about one of the their main thing, and maybe some of these things that we saw over the course of the film were little flashback vignettes, and then we're back to the main story of whatever final union thing or whatever that they want Big Shelley to do. You could have possibly did it that way a little bit better. But I think it really does suffer. And don't get me wrong. I mean, part of the reason I wasn't so excited to go to The Conjuring this weekend and I didn't is because I looked at it going, wait, does that say 137 minutes for this horror film?
That's the reason I didn't go either. I think I might have took a screenshot and sent it to you guys and be like, there needs to be a film equivalent of the Geneva Convention to keep this
right.
Because we don't need The Conjuring does not need to be Conjuring 4 does not need to be 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah. So,
considering it made twice as much as they predicted it would at the box office, Conjuring 5 is going to be 6 hours long.
Well, no, this is the final one, don't you see?
No, it's not. No, it's not. No. It'll be Conjuring: A New Beginning.
Conjuring
be a ghost
beginning.
named Roy.
Oh no.
The big bring back zombie Warrens. There you go. That's they're possessed and now
for a series with one good movie in it.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got a chance to watch this. It's very interesting seeing some of these big names, and especially some of these folks who were just, I mean, Barbara Hershey was, I think, but she still hadn't really gotten like level yet, I think, till after this, because she was still doing, like the big pictures. But just seeing the folks and seeing Scorsese's really early, like first legitimate, like studio film, so to speak, it was very interesting to see this. And there's hints and spots that I did enjoy. Overall, though, I was just like, okay, I wasn't like blown away. I'm like, wow, that was Scorsese's first. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, okay. The ending was, is memorable. So they stick the landing.
He credits this as the movie where he learned how to make a movie, because he had made, was it Who's That Knocking at My Door? Before this, and he did that, like he was shooting that on weekends, and people were coming in and going out of the movie, and months would pass before he'd see people, because he's just like, and he realized that's realistically not any way that you're ever going to make a movie. So as soon as he heard Corman was interested, he met with Corman. Corman gave him the green light for this movie, and he considers this his like post film school, because he's like, I had to make a movie in 24 days. He's like, this was my test to see if I could do it, and he considers this his first, quote unquote, real movies. I think I've seen him literally say that.
I mean, it's a hell of a feat for considering all that and doing it in 24 days and making a period piece. I mean, damn it. One thing reminded me that one scene that you and I both love, Mark, the kind of the hobo scene with the craps game, that reminded me, the way you were describing it reminded me of the post-apocalyptic town in A Boy and His Dog.
Oh yeah,
some of those kind of settings. That was kind of cool to see. One thing I want to ask, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but I don't know if this has ever been done before, but I would love if Scorsese did this. His first real picture is Boxcar Bertha. He's getting up there now. What if his final film were to be a Scorsese-fine remake of Boxcar Bertha that's like 3.5 hours long? Just go back and tell the version that he would have think is buried in this. Yeah, in this picture.
Without the limitations of a very small budget, and Roger going, now we got to cut this, we got to get it down under 90 minutes, because Scorsese 5 years later was threatening to have his name taken off a Raging Bull, because somebody, one of the extras, was wearing a watch that wasn't of the era. So Scorsese went from being really meek under Roger Corman to telling MGM, fuck off and take my name off this thing unless we could reshoot that crowd scene with that guy taking his watch off. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video. Joe Pesci tells this story of being on Raging Bull, and he's his character's cursing a lot. And apparently one of the producers comes over to Marty and goes, Marty, Joe's really cursing a lot, and you got to remember that, we for television, they're going to have to cut this. And Martin's like, yeah. And Scorsese, Pesci, apparently to get Marty's goat, walks over to him and goes, oh, Marty, I didn't realize you were doing television pictures now. And that got Scorsese going, oh, you know what? No, fuck it. Curse more. Curse even more. He's right. I don't shoot pictures for television. This is a television picture. Fuck it. Curse more. Fucking great.
So a little bit of some trivia, if you guys want to drop it, we'll wrap it up here a bit.
Let's do it.
This goes along with exactly what we were saying. After he finished his film, Martin Scorsese screened it for John Cassavetes. Cassavetes, after seeing it, hugged Scorsese and said, Marty, you've just spent a whole year of your life making a piece of shit. It's a good he said it's a good picture, but you're better than the people who are making this kind of movie. Don't get hooked into exploitation market. Just try and do something different. And so Scorsese's next film was Mean Streets.
Mean Streets. Yeah.
But Cassavetes saying, congrats, you spent your whole life making this piece of shit. A good movie, but And then apparently Carradine and Barbara Hershey were a couple at the time. Okay. So there was that. He drew the 500 storyboards, 24 days, which is really impressive, actually. Scorsese said it was the most of the editing work was done by himself, but because he wasn't a member of the Editors Guild, he wasn't credited as editor on the picture, which might have been a good thing. Yeah, so there's those things. I just thought that was funny when Cassavetes said, hey, you're better than this. You made a good piece of shit. Now go make something else.
You know what? That's some tough love, if anything else. Like, no, you did well for this kind of movie, but don't get hooked into this kind of movie. You're better than this.
Well, but that also goes back to our pre-show conversation. It's kind of eerie how this is all looping back. You need the friends who are going to tell you, when you're fucking up, or when you're not, when you're too comfortable, or this isn't good, because that it might hurt to hear it, but it can lead to great things.
Yeah, I mean, but the pre-show conversation, which Patreon members will be able to hear afterwards. I basically said that when I write something and when I send it out to my friends, I don't want them to be nice. And I try not to give them any information on it, because I feel like they need to. Wait, what is this? Audio has been fine. Oh, yeah. Somebody.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, Ian's been like frozen, but yeah, we can hear him, but he's frozen in place. Yeah. But yeah, the how basically, when you want your friends that are going to pick your screenplay apart, because when it goes to somebody at a studio, they're not going to have the benefit of you being there going, oh, what I meant to do was this. You're going to want somebody who's going to tell you this doesn't work and be honest about it. And right. One of my favorite people in the world, and I'll send him the link to this. He's probably in bed by now. Steve Gladstone in New York, who I've known now for 20 plus years. I send him a lot of my stuff, and he will challenge me on everything. And I love him for it, because it's like, okay, if I have to explain this to him, because he's been in the industry for 40 years now, if I have to explain something to him, it really doesn't work. And yeah, you do need those people who are willing to give you that kind of tough love and tell you, this doesn't work, because how else are you going to grow?
Yeah. Yep. But at the same time, if anybody wonders why Roger Corman, the guy who made such and such a film, all these films, and that got a Lifetime Academy Award Achievement Award, which was great to see, it's because he did stuff like this. He went into these big names and said, okay, you can make a movie for me. You got to do it in this much. And while it may not have been their best movie, he gave them a foot in the door for so many people in his producing films. You can't deny what he did for people.
And we just talked to somebody like that last week. Lloyd Kaufman's like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lloyd Kaufman is like, no, you know what? You sure, you can make a movie for us, but don't expect that you're going to get millions of dollars to do it. Because you're going to be able to make it for this much, and see, and look what's come out of that.
Yeah,
just James Gunn, Eli Roth, Matt Stone, Trey Parker.
Look who's spawned from Tromaville. So and speaking of Corman, we're going to be visiting another one next week. Death Race 2000.
With another guy who would go on to some great stuff, Paul Bartel.
Yeah. So we've got next week we've got Death Race 2000 as our Over the Hill special, and tonight we've got Boxcar Bertha. As Boxcar Bertha moves out of the station, give your final thought with this film. Ian, why don't you go first?
Am I unfrozen yet?
You're lagging now, but you're it's not as bad as before.
Okay, yeah, because everything's been fine on my end, so I can't tell what people are saying or not saying.
We can at least hear you completely. Your audio's been fine throughout the whole thing.
Absolutely perfect. So we've been able to hear everything you've had to say.
Occasionally you've been a still avatar, but other than that, audio is fine, which is the important part, because what you say is the most important part. So,
well, I'm glad someone agrees. But no, it's a time capsule. It's part of cinema history. I'm glad I can check Boxcar Bertha off my list. I had no idea what this movie was about or who was in it before I watched it. I just knew it was Scorsese's first official picture, and I'm glad I watched it. And I'll probably revisit it again, maybe with a different level of appreciation. Now I know where everything's going and all that. But thank you, Mark, for putting this on the list. I love this continuing film education.
You're welcome. Well, you never know what you're going to get out here. You're going to get something. Everybody else talk about the wide releases, and we're sitting here talking about films from 72. Joe, Boxcar Bertha's leaving the station. What's your final thought with it?
This was my second viewing of it. I'd seen it before because I had bought the DVD at Dollar Tree. I was like, oh my God, this is Scorsese. One of Scorsese's first movies. Let me watch it. And much like Ian, it's. I think most of my appreciation might come from kind of sitting there like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from the Terrence. Yeah. Like, oh, hey, I know that. He did that later on again. Hey, I recognize that, and I think it's in hindsight. I'm never going to be able to see this movie without knowing everything Scorsese's done since. That's not. I was born, after Raging Bull came out, so it was never in the cards for me to be able to go back to 72 and see the beginnings and have a real nuanced take on a filmmaker who I'd heard nothing about. So on that note, I really did enjoy it. And I don't know how much that was enjoying it for the film itself or for, being there to kind of realize the humble beginnings of a guy who anybody could argue on any given day, and I wouldn't put up much of a fight, is the greatest director to ever live. Anybody comes to me and says that, I'm going to be like, you know what? Totally valid opinion.
It's not without merit, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. At the very least, he's up there in the top 10, top 5, top 3.
I'd say top 5 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. If he's not the greatest, he's always in the conversation. So I like it for being able to see the kernels of the things that he would grow to. I mean, he would just go on to redo so much of this stuff. With a bigger budget, thematically, he's exploring themes that, like we said earlier, he seems to be obsessed with. And you know what? It's better for us that he was, because he's given us a lot of great movies. Had I gone into this blind, not knowing who Scorsese was, would I have liked it? I don't know.
Sure.
I still think it's good qualities outweigh its bad qualities.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, overall, it's not a bad film by itself. It's decent watch. It's just one of those. Yeah, I'm with you to where you see those kernels of Scorsese and that talent already there, and that's why I love going back and watching like real early films of these very talented directors, because you could see even the talent back then, the raw little nuggets and approach and their style. You could see that even in their early stuff, and that's always exciting to see. Or if you get a director who says, well, this director was my biggest influence, so you go back to that director's films and you look at it like Alfred Hitchcock, and you look at it, you go, oh yeah, look, there's Spielberg, there's great, there's like, look at all these great directors and who they borrowed from. Hitchcock. And if you watch the Hitchcock films, you can see where those big directors borrowed from. And if you watch the early films of these big directors like Spielberg and Duel, and that, you can see the nuggets and what that talent is. And it's fun seeing where it was and where it is now. And that's what I enjoyed about Boxcar Bertha. By itself, I would enjoy it. If I would have just caught this on cable, I would have enjoyed it fine. I think I have a better appreciation of it because of the time period.
Had this been like 1995 and you caught it on cable, would you know it was a Scorsese film? I think there are parts where you'd be like, you know what, maybe.
I wouldn't be for sure. It'd be, you get the credits at the beginning, but I'd be like, this is more of a Corman film. If I had seen Corman, if I watched it, if I came across this in cable in 95 and watched it, I'm like, oh, this has got to be Roger Corman. Oh yeah, look at that. It's Roger Corman. Oh, and Scorsese? Yeah. What?
And yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. This is more of a Corman movie than it is a Scorsese movie. Right. But it's still very much a Scorsese movie. And one thing, in the last 2 weeks, we are spoiled tonight. Because what you see, the last couple weeks, you've seen the depths of how bad it can get. You know, and even a Scorsese movie where he's still learning the ropes and doesn't know everything yet, I will watch this 100 times before I watch Rollerblade again.
and on that, I think we'll end it for tonight. I hope everybody who tuned in live enjoyed the conversation. And Ian, your audio has been great. Video, you've been freezing a little bit, but that's okay because your audio is what's important. And what's even more important now is that the license to shill is to my guest panel who show up every week as I put them through interesting films. So, Joe, you're first, sir. What do you got to shill?
Well, actually, not much this weekend. We got the interview with Lloyd coming up. It's going to be edited and coming up soon. I was just on an episode, another episode of this podcast with Mark the other day where we discussed the Toxic Avenger. That's going to be dropping soon. I think that's all I've got to shill right now at the moment.
Yes, if you join the Patreon and if you join the middle tier, you'll not only get our conversation about Toxie, but you'll hear about our pre-discussion and the Joe Randazzo origins.
That was nice to talk about because put your stuff out there, guys. You never know where that road's going to lead. Put your work out there, but put your work out there in the best way possible and put the best work you can out there because you never know. You might find out 15 years later that the guy who you're currently working for at a TV network read your screenplay 13 years ago.
There you go.
You never knew it. I've been working for him for 2 years without knowing that he had read it.
Look soon for Joe Randazzo's TED Talk. And license to shill, Mr. Ian Simmons, is yours, sir.
I'm sorry. Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and then right here on YouTube at Kicking the Seat. We do movie reviews and live streams and interviews. Yes, the three of us did talk to Lloyd Kaufman last week. And if it weren't for my darn computer issues, you would have been able to see that interview already. But knock on something resembling wood somewhere in this studio. That'll be out tomorrow, so you can check that out. And otherwise, I'm here on Sundays talking with these fine gentlemen about movies, including Boxcar Bertha and other things that resemble movies, kind of, sort of, like last month's Rollerblade. My goodness, I can't even say it anymore.
Boxcar Bertha is leaps above last week's film. So
right, I'm just saying there's a drop off there.
Definitely,
or I guess no, it's a reverse drop off. What is that? An ascension?
And you know, I was actually thinking this. I'd like to see a graph where we take like Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, Francis Ford Coppola, and we kind of just like watch how they each become like the better filmmaker of the bunch because it's interesting to watch. Because at this point, you probably would have thought De Palma would be the big one because Sisters is such a damn good movie. And then you got Coppola at this point, another Corman guy, doing The Godfather in 1972. Yeah. You know, and you got Spielberg doing Duel. And then Spielberg becomes the biggest director. De Palma at this point is above Scorsese, but Scorsese's going to come up and overtake him. And it's kind of interesting. I would really like to see that graph of like where the movies stand quality wise, like as like a consensus.
Like one of those races with the balloons where you're filling one up to see which one's going to pop first, right? And
we were spoiled, though. I mean, with those filmmakers all coming around at the same time, we were spoiled.
Absolutely. We were absolutely spoiled. And I am spoiled to have a crew wonderful to come on every week to talk about movies. As far as my part to shill, I'm going to shill Sawdust City Fright Fest is in 1 month, a little over 1 month. We are doing 2 nights, October 10th and the 11th. So if you're in the Oshkosh, Wisconsin area, or come up Friday night, our opening night, we are going to be showing the Giant Spider Invasion, which is Wisconsin grown monster creature feature. Right now scheduled to attend is the director, as well as some folks who are involved in, if you've seen The Buzz, a reimagining of the Giant Spider Invasion. So they will be scheduled to attend, and we'll be showing a concept movie as well called Rise of Dearmageddon, which is some Wisconsin homegrown film as well. It's a concept. And then Saturday will be a day of short blocks. We're going to have a feature and 2 short blocks. of all kinds of shorts, most of them coming from Wisconsin. So yeah, sawdustcityfrightfest.com. Go there, and you can check out the schedule for 2025. And that's what I'm shilling tonight. So thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you return with us next week for another Over the Hill episode as we hop back into cars and we try to mow down people for points in Death Race 2000. So until then, we'll just say good night, everyone.